Hi everyone, this is Catherine with the Feisty Freckle Boutique, and today I'm going to show you how to make some really nice petite washcloths for your kitchen. They're a great beginner's project, and you can repurpose old towels and use scraps of fabric that you have laying around. This is especially a good project for children who might want to make something for their grandmother or mother. The first step is to cut out a square of fabric. You'll need two different squares, a square of cotton fabric and a square of terry cloth. I just used my quilting ruler, and my quilting ruler is about 6.5 inches wide, so I made 6.5 inch wide squares. Once you have those cut out, what you'll need to do is lay your terry cloth down on a flat surface, and then take your cotton fabric and turn it over with your right side down onto your terry cloth, matching up your raw edges all the way around. Okay? Once you have that done, come back and I'll show you how to sew it together. Okay, I also wanted to talk to you about this small little piece of fabric that I have. It was just some leftover fabric after I cut my squares out. I didn't really measure it. I just cut it into strips, and then I folded it in half and then folded the two halves down so that the raw edges are actually inside this fold, and sewed it together. So you don't have to turn it out or anything like that. And when you fold it over, it becomes a little loop that you can put on your washcloth. And all you have to do is take your layer of cotton, pull it up, and you would take your loop and pin it. You could either do it on the corner. I find it's easier to do in the middle because the corners can get a little bit bulky. So you put that there, you lay your terry cloth over, and you would pin it there and just sew right straight across, of course taking your pin out before sewing. And when you turn it right side out, you'll have a nice little loop that you can hang it up under your kitchen cabinet or by your faucet. It will also help keep it dry between washes. The other thing I wanted to talk about is my walking foot, and I've done quite a few washcloths before I made this video, so it's a little bit fuzzy right now. I need to clean that up, but most models of sewing machines have a walking foot, and this is what it looks like. It really helps when you have a bulky fabric to feed that fabric through, so that it doesn't give you puckers and uneven feed. So the first thing we're going to do is put this on our machine, and I use about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So all I do is I line my edge of my fabric up with the edge of my foot, and I make sure that my needle is in the middle needle position. That gives me about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. I don't start sewing at the end or at a corner, okay? And there's a reason for that. I find that it's harder to stop and start at corners than it is if I just come down here. If you were to look at this in thirds, you know, you'd have a third, and a third. Well, this middle third is we're going to leave as a hole so that we can turn it right side out when we're finished sewing. So I'm going to go past that and start down here, and that's where I will start my sewing. Okay? So I'm going to start sewing. When you get to your corner, just go slowly. Okay, and I'll turn, and if I see that I have too much or too little, I can always turn back and go a little farther or go backwards a bit. Okay, so I'm just going to go. My presser foot automatically moves up and down because I have a Brother embroidery and sewing machine in one. I have a regular sewing machine that doesn't do that. If that's the case, when you get to your corner, you'll want to lift your presser foot by hand, leaving your needle down, and turn your fabric, okay? And then you'll put your presser foot back down and then restart the next side. And this is the side that we have the loop on. So we're just going to sew right over the little loop. Okay. Go to the corner again. Going to kind of creep up on that corner, turn my fabric, and continue going down the next side. You don't want to go too fast with these walking feet. Okay? They tend to break if you go too fast. Okay, so now I'm back to where I started, if you remember. Oh, no, I'm not yet. Let's do this last side. Almost there. And this doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so you just have fun with it and leave the perfection to the experts, which we aren't. We're just doing this for fun. Okay, so now that we're back to where you can see where I started, and this is where I am now, I'm going to leave a nice wide gap here to turn it right side out. So I'm going to go a little farther down and stop. I'm going to reinforce that stitch, or back stitch, as they say. Your machine may have a button that you push down while you push your pedal down so it goes backwards a little bit. That would be back stitching. You can do that as well, okay? So now that we're all finished, we're going to pull this off. We're going to clip our corners, but what we want to do is we want to get really close to this edge stitching without cutting through it. So maybe like 1/8 of an inch above that, we're going to cut this corner off. And do that for all 4 corners, and we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've got all 4 corners trimmed. And you can see how close I got to the stitching without cutting through it. So now the next thing I need to do is go in through this hole. And I like to work my way up to a corner and turn it right side. Oh, before I do that, I did want to show you. Look and see how uneven this is. Okay, now in some cases, or in most cases, this is an awful idea. If you feel more comfortable, you could trim that off, but it's not really going to matter. This project is great for beginners, not just because it's a straight stitch and it's really quick and easy, but if you do get off, it's not going to affect the end product that much at all. So now what I do is I stick my thumb in here and I go for a corner to turn it right side out. I will come right through that hole, and as soon as I get it right side up, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've gotten it turned right side out, and as you can see, it still looks pretty frumpy. So what I like to use, and one of my favorite sewing tools, is a chopstick. Awesome. And I have a large end and a smaller end. I'm really bad about punching holes in my projects, trying to get my corners just right if I use a small end. So I usually use the larger end. And all I do is go in through the hole here, and I go up to each corner and push firmly, but not too hard, because like I said, you could tear through your fabric depending on what fabric you're using, and also on how high quality your fabric is. Some fabrics, like your Walmart fabrics, let me show you here how this tend to tear a little bit more easily. This fabric is actually from Hobby Lobby, and I have a fabric store, so you would think I would show you a video using my fabric, but I just happened to already have these cut out, and so I wanted to show them to you. Now this is what the corner looks like once it's pushed through. It's still not perfect and sharp, but that's okay. Like, these are wash rags, like I said. No one's going to say, oh my goodness, you didn't make your corners sharp. Okay, now that you've got all your corners pushed out with your favorite sewing tool, your chopstick, you go over to your iron, and you would iron it on your cotton side. Don't iron it on this side. But you would iron it on your cotton side using a little bit of steam, pressing it down. And when you come to this part that's open, you just want to fold each side under a little bit like this is. Lay it flat as best you can with your fingers and iron over it, okay? Once you get that done, we'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and iron one of my little washcloths here. Let's see. Here's my opening. I'm just making sure it's folded together before I start ironing. And I'm really going to press more than I'm going to iron. I'm going to place it down. Just kind of let the steam do its work. Moving it over each time. Okay. You can go the other direction as well if you'd like. It's already starting to look a lot better. Now all we have to do is a little top stitch all the way around to close up our little opening, and we will be all finished. Okay, we're back at the machine, and when I start doing my top stitch, I start on a side that does not have the opening, and I just make sure I don't start in a corner. Just down from a corner is really nice, and that way you can come around and you don't have to start and stop in a corner. What I do as far as seam allowance is I go ahead and use my side of my presser foot, but I bring my needle over to my right side needle position. If you can't do that, then you can always bring your fabric over a little bit closer to the needle. That way you get more like an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. It will look really nice, and it also closes that opening that you have. So I'll be right back once we go all the way around on our top stitch. Okay, now my top stitch is finished, and as you can tell, it's far from perfect, but it will definitely work for washing dishes. The last thing that I like to do, and you don't have to do this, I like to put a line of stitching, a diagonal line, either from that corner to that corner or that one to that one. It doesn't even really matter which corner. That way it holds your washcloth together and it won't come apart whenever it's washed and dried and under heavy duty washing and scrubbing. So I'm going to do my diagonal stitch, and then I'll be right back with my finished product. Okay, there's the diagonal stitching, and now we're all finished. Now we have a nice little wash rag ready to use in the kitchen and to make dishwashing a little bit more fun. Maybe even the kids will want to play with your dishcloth that's nice and pretty and wash some dishes for you. Maybe not, but hey, we can always hope. Thanks again for joining me with the Feisty Freckle Boutique, and take a little journey over to the website and check out our fabrics. You might find something that would go great in your kitchen.